A national wind speed record has been set in Portugal. In the United States, people froze to death in their homes.
Oh no!
In Italy, houses collapsed from a 20-meter cliff. In Brazil, lightning struck a crowd. And these are just a few days on our planet, not the top disasters of an entire year. Canada.
Better than today's.
In Canada, this winter storm caused anomalous snowfall and extremely cold weather, which led to the paralysis of transportation, power outages, and the closure of educational institutions. On the 25th of January, 46 centimeters of snow were recorded at Toronto Pearson Airport, setting a daily record. As a result, more than 600 flights were cancelled or delayed. The total volume of snow that fell in the city over the course of the month became the highest on record for the entire observation period. After heavy snowfall, a thaw usually follows. However, this time the temperature remained very low, which only aggravated the consequences. The Canadian Red Cross set up a temporary shelter in a suburb of Montreal, after thousands of residents lost electricity during the severe cold. In certain areas of the province of Saskatchewan, taking wind chill into account, temperatures felt like minus 49 degrees Celsius. On the island of Newfoundland, Frazzle Ice, which is a mixture of ice and water, blocked the water intake of the largest hydroelectric power plant in the region. As a result, the plant was completely shut down for the first time since 1967. To resolve the problem, divers were brought in, who worked despite the icy water and used air compressors to remove the ice. United States. At the end of January, a severe winter storm named Fern swept across the United States. 34 states, from New Mexico to Maine, were affected by a large-scale atmospheric system stretching more than 3,200 kilometers. Approximately 230 million people were exposed to the impacts of the severe weather. Heavy snowfall hit the northeastern regions of the country and the Ohio River Valley. In at least 17 states, snow cover reached 30 centimeters or more. Record values were recorded in the state of New Mexico, where more than 78 centimeters of wet snow fell near Lake Bonito, as well as in western Pennsylvania, where snow depth exceeded 50 centimeters. An extremely difficult situation also developed in the southern states, where people are more accustomed to dealing with hurricanes than with winter storms. These regions turned out to be completely unprepared for such a blow of the elements. There is no snow removal equipment, and the population lacks sufficiently warm clothing. Wet snow and freezing rain covered roads, trees, and power lines with a layer of ice up to 2.5 centimeters thick. Under its weight, wires snapped and branches and power line supports collapsed onto roadways. In the state of Mississippi, authorities were forced for the first time to use a record amount of de-icing agents to combat icy conditions. This ice storm was recognized as the most extensive in the state since 1994. Authorities in the state of New Jersey imposed a ban on the movement of commercial transport. Exceptions applied only to the transport of food, fuel, and medical cargo, as well as to emergency services and personnel of critical infrastructure facilities.
Years, up to a foot possible into the storm zone ahead of expected widespread power outages.
Air traffic also took a serious hit. More than 11,600 flights were cancelled nationwide, and over 16,000 departures were delayed. A private aircraft carrying 8 passengers crashed during takeoff at Bangor Airport in the state of Maine. At least 21 states declared a state of emergency. The consequences of the disaster proved to be extremely severe. More than 1 million consumers across the country were left without electricity at the height of the storm. In a number of cities, people lost electricity, water supply, and heating simultaneously. At the same time, a wave of anomalous cold swept across most of the United States, reaching Texas and the lower course of the Mississippi River. Taking wind chill into account, temperatures felt like minus 30 to minus 34 degrees Celsius, while actual values were 6 to 22 degrees Celsius below the climatic norm.
I think I broke it completely.
trees down everywhere.
Witnesses describe these days as a true test of endurance. Residents of Memphis and Nashville said that they spent the nights in one room, wearing hats and jackets, tried to conserve phone battery power, and started their cars for only a few minutes to warm up. In Mississippi, hundreds of people spent the night in cars, stuck on icy highways, waiting for the roads to be cleared. As a result of the storm, more than 100 people died in the country. Many died from hypothermia, including in their own homes, where indoor temperatures nearly matched outdoor ones. One of the most tragic cases occurred in Texas, where 3 young brothers fell through the ice on a frozen pond. Dozens of people, including children and adults, were hospitalized with carbon monoxide poisoning. People used generators and heaters in unsafe ways while trying to keep warm. The colossal economic damage from the storm is estimated at up to $115 billion, making it the most expensive weather disaster since the fires in the vicinity of Los Angeles in January 2025. Storm Kristen. On the night of the 28th of January, a powerful Atlantic storm named Christina hit the Iberian Peninsula. Rapidly intensifying over the ocean, it struck the coast of Portugal, becoming a true climate shock for the country. In some areas, wind gusts exceeded 180 kilometers per hour. And in the municipality of Soria, the figure reached almost 209 kilometers per hour, surpassing the record set in 2018. Across the country, the storm toppled trees and tore roofs off houses. Strong winds in the city of Figueira da Foz caused a Ferris wheel to collapse. In Leiria, the stadium sustained significant damage. In Coimbra, the storm affected several aircraft and hangars at the municipal airfield. At the aviation base in Monte Real, wind gusts also damaged F-16 fighter jets. More than 800,000 residents of the central and northern regions of Portugal were left without electricity. In several municipalities, communications, heating and water supply were disrupted, and public transport ceased to operate. Off the country's coast, the storm raised waves up to 14 meters, creating additional danger for coastal areas and port infrastructure. As a result of the storm in Portugal, 5 people died. Moving eastward, the storm hit the southern and central regions of Spain. In Andalusia and the surroundings of Malaga, strong winds and heavy rains were recorded, which paralyzed traffic. In the city of Torremolinos, a tree fell on a house, resulting in the death of a woman. The storm near Madrid was accompanied by a sharp drop in temperature and snowfall unusual for the area. This led to school closures and traffic jams on the roads. Christina was not an ordinary extratropical storm. It intensified explosively. Within a few hours, pressure dropped sharply, and wind speeds reached values characteristic of a Category 2 to 3 tropical hurricane. This turned Christina into one of the strongest and most destructive winter storms in recent years on the Iberian Peninsula. Italy. On the 25th of January, a large-scale landslide occurred in Sicily. In the town of Nishimi, a popular resort with a population of about 25,000, a huge section of land broke away, and several buildings collapsed from a height of 20 meters, while hundreds more were on the verge of collapse. Seeing cracks in the walls, residents urgently left their homes without taking anything with them. More than 1,500 people were evacuated. Many stayed with relatives, and for hundreds of others, authorities opened temporary shelters in the local sports hall. It remains unknown how long they will stay there and whether they will be able to return to their homes. The situation disrupted traffic on most local roads. Schools were closed, and the town was declared a red zone. The landslide extended along the hillside for 4 kilometers and remains active. The ground continues to deform, with new cracks and collapses occurring. It is also alarming that, according to specialists, not only the visible part of the landslide is moving, The entire plateau is shifting toward the Gela Plain. Turkey. On the 30th of January, heavy rains hit the provinces of Mersin and Adana, causing catastrophic flooding. Rivers and streams in Mersin overflowed. Streets and boulevards turned into raging torrents that engulfed dozens of cars. A bridge in the Dagla area could not withstand the force of the elements and collapsed. Water poured into residential houses and agricultural lands, including flooding the building of the Alata Horticultural Research Institute. In Adana, heavy rains caused canals to overflow. In the Saraçhane district, the Buruk cemetery was completely flooded. In the Yeşiltepe area, the retaining wall of a residential building collapsed. Roads turned into nearly impassable bodies of water, where cars became stuck. In addition, the rains triggered 2 landslides in the province. One blocked the road at the Obrukbeli Pass, and the second blocked the road in the Tapan area. There were no human casualties, but the material damage was enormous. Hundreds of flooded homes and businesses, damaged roads, and destroyed infrastructure. Morocco. Heavy rains caused widespread flooding in northwestern Morocco, with the city of El Ksar El Kabir suffering the most. Due to water release from an overflowing dam and the sharp rise in river levels, powerful flows struck the city, flooding several residential areas. Authorities deployed rapid response military units to assist the affected population. More than 50,000 residents, which accounts for almost half of El Ksar El Kabir's population, were evacuated, and the main entrance to the city was temporarily closed.
Streets and fog.
Algeria. In the last days of January, vast areas of Algeria, including the capital, were hit by a destructive storm. Wind gusts in some places reached 120 kilometers per hour, corresponding to hurricane strength. Such values are considered extremely rare for Algeria, where wind speeds usually do not exceed 90 kilometers per hour. A red alert was issued in most provinces. Classes in educational institutions were cancelled, and public parks were closed. Across the country, the storm toppled numerous trees and power line supports, caused walls, roofs, and balconies to collapse, and also damaged road infrastructure. Heavy rains in several provinces caused wadi, dried up riverbeds, to fill rapidly with water, triggering flash floods. In the province of Gilizane, livestock perished, and in several communes, people and vehicles were trapped in water. Fortunately, there were no human casualties. Brazil. In the country's capital, Brasilia, on the 25th of January, during a storm, lightning struck directly into a crowd of people gathered at a political rally. A total of 89 people were injured. 47 of them were taken to hospitals, and the rest received medical assistance on site. According to eyewitnesses, immediately after the lightning strike, several people lost consciousness. Even without visible injuries, people required medical attention due to severe shock and stress. This number of lightning strike victims was the highest in the country's history, even though Brazil records the largest number of lightning strikes in the world, about 80 million strikes to the ground annually. On the 29th of January, in the municipality of Tramandaí, on the northern coast of Rio Grande do Sul, another tragic incident occurred. Lightning struck a young man who was resting on the seashore. Despite all efforts, medical personnel were unable to save him. He died in the hospital. The key factor in the emergence of these anomalies is micro and nanoplastic. This is not just an environmental pollution issue, but relates to the electret-like properties of plastic particles, due to which they not only intensify climate catastrophes, but also damage the human body. More details can be found in our previous issues, and in the report, Nanoplastic in the Biosphere. from molecular impact to planetary crisis. The fundamental solution to the problem is to make micro and nanoplastic safe, transforming it from an active and dangerous agent into inert dust, depriving plastic particles of the ability to accumulate and retain electrostatic charge. And this process must begin not in years, but right now.
Correlates directly with their size.
It is important to emphasize here, in this matter, the scientific team of ALLATRA has already accomplished one of the key tasks of any research. It identified the root cause. The final solution has not yet been found. However, simply identifying the cause already saves the global scientific community decades of work and enormous resources. Depriving micro and nanoplastic of electrostatic charge can trigger natural self-recovery processes. This will not only reduce its harmful impact on human health, but also eliminate the excess energy that is currently accumulating and intensifying the geodynamic crisis and natural disasters. Heat exchange in the ocean and atmosphere will begin to balance, and excess heat from the Earth's interior will once again be able to dissipate into space. The scale of the task is enormous. Its solution requires complex research, expensive equipment, and thousands of experiments worldwide. However, everything necessary already exists. There are laboratories, specialists, and infrastructure. What is lacking is only the conditions for collaborative and coordinated work. Moreover, humanity already has positive experience in international scientific collaboration with a shared goal, for example, in the Human Genome Project.
Structural variation.
Therefore, this experience can also be applied to solving the nanoplastic problem. The only driving force is people themselves. It is time to stop hoping that someone else will appear and solve everything. This is similar to a patient situation. The diagnosis has already been made, and the cause of the illness has been identified. But treatment only begins when the patient acknowledges the problem and seeks help. Today, that patient is all of humanity. And as long as we can still think, understand, and act, we have a chance to change what is happening and give a future, not only to ourselves, but also to the next generations.
¡Qué fuerte!
Ничего себе.
Sin daño.
On the night of January 28th, the powerful Atlantic storm Kristin struck the Iberian Peninsula. Rapidly intensifying over the ocean, the storm system reached the coast of Portugal and became a true climatic shock for the country. In some areas, wind speeds exceeded 112 miles per hour, while in the municipality of Soria gusts reached nearly 130 miles per hour. This far surpassed the previous national record set on October 13, 2018, during Storm Leslie, when the maximum wind speed reached 110 miles per hour. Along the coast, wave heights reached 46 feet, creating an additional threat to coastal areas and ports. Across the country, the storm uprooted trees and tore roofs off buildings. In Coimbra, the damage affected several aircraft and hangars at the municipal airfield. At the Monte Real Air Base, powerful gusts damaged F-16 fighter jets. In Figueira da Foz, gale force winds collapsed a Ferris wheel, while in Leiria, a stadium suffered severe damage. More than 800,000 residents in central and northern Portugal were left without electricity. In a number of municipalities, communications, heating, and water supply systems were disrupted, and public transportation was brought to a halt.
O alerta espalhou-se na noite de terça-feira com avisos da proteção civil.
As of January 29th, the storm had claimed the lives of 5 people in Portugal. Moving eastward, the storm struck southern and central regions of Spain. In Andalusia and around Malaga, strong winds and heavy rainfall paralyzed transportation. In the city of Torremolinos, a tree fell onto a residential building, resulting in the death of a woman. In the outskirts of Madrid, Kristen brought a sharp drop in temperatures and snowfall rare for the region. As a result, schools were closed and traffic congestion formed on major roads. Storm Kristen was not just another extratropical cyclone. It underwent a phase of explosive intensification, during which atmospheric pressure dropped sharply within a matter of hours, and wind speeds reached levels comparable to those of a Category 2 to Category 3 tropical hurricane. This made Kristen one of the most powerful and destructive winter storms to affect the Iberian Peninsula in recent years. Have you ever wondered why nearly every natural disaster today sets new records for precipitation, wind speed, and other parameters? These are not just numbers or statistics. They represent destruction and loss of life. If you are not yet aware of what is amplifying today's increasingly extreme climate disasters and making them so anomalous, we recommend reading the report Nanoplastics in the Biosphere. From molecular impact to planetary crisis, it offers answers to many questions about what is currently happening to nature and to humanity.
Kind of scary, but cool.
In late January, a fierce winter storm named Fern swept across the United States. Rapidly intensifying, it grew into a massive system stretching more than 2,000 miles, affecting 34 states from New Mexico to Maine. Approximately 230 million people were directly or indirectly impacted by the storm.
That is straight sleep.
Heavy snowfall blanketed large areas of the Northeast and the Ohio River Valley. In at least 17 states, snow accumulation reached 1 foot or more. Record snowfall totals were observed in New Mexico, where more than 31 inches of wet snow fell near Lake Bonito, and in western Pennsylvania, where snow depth exceeded 20 inches.
It's snowing a lot.
The storm also brought extremely dangerous conditions to much of the southern United States, where residents are generally more accustomed to hurricanes than to blizzards. These regions were largely unprepared for such an event. Snow removal equipment is scarce, and many residents lack sufficiently warm clothing. Wet snow and freezing rain coated roads, trees, and power lines with ice layers up to 1 inch thick. Eyewitness photographs showed entire neighborhoods with downed power lines, collapsed utility poles, and broken tree branches lying directly across roadways. The governor of Mississippi stated that this was the most severe ice storm the state had experienced since 1994. To combat icy conditions, authorities used a record amount of de-icing chemicals for the first time, along with large quantities of salt and sand to treat roads.
This motherfucking freeway. Shit, you niggas through. Shit, whoever got caught me early.
The consequences were catastrophic. At the height of the storm, more than 1 million customers nationwide were left without electricity. Widespread power outages were reported in Tennessee, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, Kentucky, Georgia, West Virginia, and Alabama. At least 21 states declared a state of emergency. In New Jersey, restrictions were imposed on commercial vehicle traffic. Exceptions were made for food, fuel, and medical transport, as well as for utility services, emergency responders, and personnel responsible for critical infrastructure.
Meron diyang bagyo. Dito sa amin ito ang bagyo.
Air travel was hit especially hard. Across the country, more than 11,600 flights were canceled, and over 16,000 flights were delayed. Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport in Northern Virginia and LaGuardia Airport in New York were effectively shut down. At Bangor International Airport in Maine, a private aircraft carrying 8 passengers crashed during takeoff. In some cities, residents simultaneously lost electricity, drinking water, and heating. At the same time, extreme cold spread across much of the United States. Sub-zero Fahrenheit temperatures engulfed the plains, the Midwest, and the Northeast, while record-breaking cold reached as far south as Texas and the lower Mississippi River region. Wind chill values dropped to between -20 and -30 degrees Fahrenheit, while actual temperatures were 10 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit below seasonal averages. Eyewitnesses described those days as a true test of endurance. Residents of Memphis and Nashville reported sleeping in a single room, wearing hats and jackets, conserving phone battery power, and running their cars only for a few minutes at a time to warm up. In Mississippi, hundreds of people spent the night stranded in their vehicles on ice-covered highways, waiting for roads to be cleared. In northern states, residents said that snow and wind literally erased the boundary between the road and the shoulder, making navigation impossible.
Oh Lord, keep everyone safe.
Human losses became the most tragic outcome of the storm. More than 100 people across the country lost their lives, with roughly half of the deaths occurring in Tennessee, Mississippi, and Louisiana. Many died from hypothermia, including inside their own homes, where indoor temperatures dropped nearly to outdoor levels. Others were killed after slipping on ice, in fatal traffic accidents, or from heart attacks while shoveling snow. One of the most devastating incidents occurred in Texas, where 3 young brothers fell through the ice on a frozen pond. Dozens of children and adults were hospitalized with carbon monoxide poisoning after attempting to heat their homes using generators and heaters in unsafe ways. According to AccuWeather estimates, the storm caused economic losses of up to $115 billion, making it the most costly extreme weather event since the devastating wildfires in the Los Angeles area in January 2025. In Canada, the same winter storm brought anomalously heavy snowfall and extremely low temperatures, triggering transportation paralysis, power outages, and widespread closures of schools and universities. On January 25th, Toronto Pearson International Airport recorded approximately 18 inches of snowfall, setting a daily record. As a result, more than 600 flights were canceled or delayed. According to Environment and Climate Change Canada, the total snowfall accumulated in the city over the month reached approximately 35 inches, the highest monthly total since records began in 1937. Typically, a thaw follows heavy snowfall, but this time temperatures remained extremely low, further worsening the situation. The Canadian Red Cross opened a temporary shelter in the Montreal suburb of Côte-Saint-Luc after thousands of residents were left without electricity during the severe cold. In parts of the province of Saskatchewan, wind chill temperatures felt as low as minus 56 degrees Fahrenheit. On the island of Newfoundland, fragile ice, a mixture of ice crystals and water, blocked the water intake at the region's largest hydroelectric power station, forcing a complete shutdown for the first time since 1967. Divers were deployed for cleanup and, despite the freezing water, used air compressors to remove the ice. It has long been clear to all reasonable people that there is no hope that such cataclysms will simply stop on their own. Without targeted action, their frequency and destructive power will only continue to increase. Humanity already has the ability to eliminate the influence of one fundamental factor that not only amplifies natural disasters, but also threatens life on the planet itself. This factor is microplastics and nanoplastics. Finding a way to neutralize their electrostatic charge is, today, our only real chance to slow the escalation of these extreme processes. More details on this issue, as well as on what can be done right now, are available in the video Nanoplastics. Threat to Life Alatra documentary. Every day of inaction means lost opportunities and lost human lives. That is why, now more than ever, the choice, the truth, and the actions of each individual truly matter.
Шла пурга, я просыпаюсь, окна примерно выглядят вот так вот. Так, уже традиционно выходим со второго этажа.
А нет, все нормально. Так, просто фиксируем немножко. Вот он, да.
The winter of 2025 through 2026 became one of the harshest for Russia's Kamchatka in recent decades and effectively turned into a prolonged snow blockade. As early as December 2025, the situation began to move beyond normal conditions. In southern Kamchatka, 3 episodes of extremely heavy precipitation were recorded and classified as hazardous meteorological events. In Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky, about 14.6 inches of precipitation fell in a single month, more than 3 monthly averages. In January 2026, the snowfall not only failed to stop, but intensified. During just the first half of the month, an additional 6.4 inches of precipitation fell in the regional capital. The snow-covered depth at the Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky weather station reached about 5 feet 7 inches, while in some districts of the city and surrounding suburbs, snowdrifts exceeded 8 feet. According to the Kamchatka Department of Hydrometeorology, such conditions had not been observed in the region for more than 50 years. The last comparable winter occurred in the early 1970s. Beginning on January 13th, the regional capital was hit with more than a full month's worth of snowfall in just 4 days, about 5.1 inches of precipitation. The storm was accompanied by extremely strong winds, with gusts in some areas exceeding 62 miles per hour, causing snow not merely to accumulate, but to form dense snow dunes several stories high near buildings. Building entrances were blocked, and snow pressure forced in doors and first-floor windows. Residents escaped their homes through windows, jumping directly into the snowdrifts. Many residents compared the situation to a blockade, noting that by the 5th day of the storm, snow removal had affected only the main highways. Even satellite imagery showed the capital of Kamchatka Krai almost completely concealed beneath a dense layer of snow. Roads were closed, schools were shut down, public transportation was suspended, and the city's infrastructure entered a state of collapse. Stores were rapidly emptied, with only cereals and instant noodles remaining on shelves. Local residents reported that weather forecasts had in no way prepared them for what occurred. Expecting to wait out the storm for just a few hours or, at most, miss a day of work, many found themselves trapped in their homes for 5 days without sufficient food supplies. The disaster resulted in loss of life. On January 15th, in the Siroglaska district, a 62-year-old man was killed when a mass of snow collapsed from the roof of a private house. The following day, January 16th, another elderly man in Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky was struck by a falling snow mass from the roof of a residential building. Witnesses managed to dig him out while he was still alive, but due to completely uncleared streets, an ambulance arrived only several hours later. The victim died from his injuries. Following these tragedies, city authorities declared a state of emergency, announced avalanche danger, and urged residents to remain indoors and avoid walking beneath sloped roofs. At Kamchatka's main airport, dozens of flights were canceled, including routes to remote settlements in the northern part of the peninsula. Power outages were recorded in some areas, posing a particular danger to the private housing sector, where most homes rely on electric heating. Buildings cooled down within just a few hours. Emergency services were physically unable to respond to all calls, and people began to unite to dig out homes on their own, help elderly neighbors, and transport them to doctors. According to residents, only after the city is fully cleared will it become clear how many elderly people living alone did not survive that snowbound week. Experts explained the extreme precipitation in Kamchatka by an anomalous configuration of atmospheric circulation. Over the northern Pacific Ocean and the Sea of Okhotsk, a multi-center low-pressure system formed. The Aleutian Low displaced farther west than usual. This configuration created a persistent mechanism for pumping moist oceanic air toward Kamchatka, where it collided with icy air intrusions from Yakutia. Each new influx of warm, moisture-laden air led to intense precipitation. Rain fell over the sea, while heavy, wet snow accumulated along the coast and deep within the peninsula. But what caused this anomaly to form in the first place? Scientists from ALLATRA have already provided a preliminary answer to this question in the scientific report Nanoplastics in the Biosphere, from molecular impact to planetary crisis. Their findings shed light on many previously unexplained climatic processes.